Morning YouTube, I finally got my cerebrals through, so I'll be doing a deck about those later on, so stay tuned for that. But today I just want to have, it'll just be like a rant about the ban list and the new priority changes. I don't know if you're aware of them, but basically you can find out the information anywhere, Dueling Days, Pojo, just all over the place. But Japan, over there, OCG Konami, released a statement on their website saying that from March the 19th, which is when they released the Zexal monsters, which apparently isn't actually pronounced Zexal, the X is just a mark, so it's actually just Zeal, but there we are. But yeah, when they release those, they're going to change the rulings on turn player priority for monsters with ignition effects on the summon. Now I appreciate a lot of you aren't actually going to know what that means, so I'll try and explain it. I'll oversimplify it, so it's not going to be perfect, but basically that means that when you summon a monster, at the moment you can use your turn player priority to activate its effect before your opponent can respond to the summon. So the example that I'm going to use over and over again with this is Bryanak. So you synchro summon to Bryanak and you go, I'm activating priority, discard a card, bounce your monster, and then your opponent goes chain bottomless. So you've used the effect, then your opponent responds to the summon. The change that's going to happen is you won't be able to use your turn player priority for that. So you go, I'm going to synchro into Bryanak, and your opponent goes bottomless. You can't do anything. So Bryanak just gets removed. You can't use the effect, you can't do anything like that. Now this is only for ignition monsters. So there's a couple of different types of monster effects. There's, ignition, trigger, quick effect, etc. This is only for ignition, and ignition, this is overgeneralizing, so don't take this as the rule, this is just sort of a general rule of thumb. But ignition effects are where you have to ignite them. Generally, it's they activate in the main phase, either one or two, and where you have to do something to activate the effect. So, take the example of Bryanak, you have to go activate effect, discard a card for a cost. Or Dark Grepher, activate effect, discard a card for a cost. Or Lone Fire Blossom, activate effect, tribute a plant for the effect. So these are all ignition effects, they require you to ignite them, you personally. This rule change doesn't affect any monster with a trigger effect, which is different. Now a trigger effect is where it generally doesn't need you to do anything, it's where the monster effect will activate or trigger automatically once the requirements of the effect are met. So in this case, let's take Cerebral. His effect is a trigger effect because you discard him to the graveyard. His effect requirement is met, he'll special summon. But a better example is probably Debris Dragon. So you summon Debris Dragon, your opponent goes, Trap Hole, and you go, okay, effect, I'm going to special summon a monster, because his effect is a trigger effect, which is where when he's normal summoned, that's all you have to do to fulfill the requirement. Normal summon him, and then you can special summon the monster. So in future, it means that big cards like Judgment Dragon, Chaos Sorcerer, Bryanak, etc., that need sort of your manual activation, you won't be able to call priority on when you summon them. This is a big change. So it means that you have to be very, very careful with your big boss monsters nowadays. But it does also explain why some cards were specifically hit on the ban list when no one saw it coming. I'm just dropping cards everywhere, sorry. So nobody saw this coming. Book of Moon going to 1. I pretty much thought it went to 1 because everyone was abusing it. It was in 3 in like every single deck. So if a card is being used that much, then it's got to have some sort of overpoweredness to it. So I sort of thought maybe it would go to 2, but no, it went to 1. And the reason for that now is you go summon Bryanak, Book of Moon, and Bryanak goes face down, they can't use their effect. So now, the only synchro that you really need to worry about is Stardust or Black Rose Dragon, because Stardust is a quick effect, if your opponent bottomlesses it, Stardust can negate it. And Black Rose Dragon is a trigger effect. So if you go, summon Black Rose Dragon, and they go bottomless, you go, I'm going to nuke the field. So those two are the really, horrendously big synchro monsters nowadays, which also explains why they hit Debris Dragon. because Debris Dragon was the main way of going into Black Rose Dragon, getting back Dandelion or whatever. But now that that's at 2, you're going to see Black Rose Dragon less. So rather than hitting Black Rose Dragon, they've hit the way to go into Black Rose Dragon. So that's pretty cool. Because of all this, though, some stuff that you might not normally see will come around some more. So Solemn Warning is still going to be staple. Bottomless Trap Hole will be staple again, because if you play that, then your opponent can't use their ignition effects. Trap Hole might see some play, you never know. It's sort of between like these two, Trap Hole, Dimensional Prison, and Compulsory Evacuation Device. These two are better in that they get rid of the threat. Dimensional Prison permanently gets rid of it. It's removed from play. Trap Hole, kills it, whereas Compulsory is actually going to stop them from using, the effect or synchroing off. It's chainable, is the big bit. But yeah, you'll see those two, with more play basically. And Spirit Reaper as well went to 2. I'm really happy about that. I said before my my sort of ban list confirmed thing, but this going to 2 is really good, because if we have an X-Saber format, which looks really likely, then you just set that and you're like, go, and then you're like, oh my god, you can't do anything about it, ha ha ha. So that's really cool. And with X-Sabers getting hit as well, here's another thing. When Blackwings got smashed to crap in the ban list, everyone, including me, was like, ow, that really, really hurts. And then X-Sabers didn't get touched at all, so you just like, great, X-Saber format. And then they released this priority rule change, which has changed everything. So think about it. Blackwings, there are 3 monsters they will use that will have ignition effects that you'd use. One is Sirocco. Now, if you're summoning Sirocco, 99% of the time you're not going to have any monster on your side of the field, so you're not going to use its effect to pump itself up anyway, because that's pointless. Okay, so if your opponent bottomlesses it, they would have bottomlessed it whether you're going to pump a monster up or not. You haven't missed out anything there. The other one is Gale. That is kind of bad, but when you consider there's only one Gale, not likely to get touched if you summon it, and they can't bottomless it, so I don't think anyone's going to waste a Solemn Warning on a Gale, unless it was like game-changing sort of situation. And the last one's Dark Arm Dragon. So that's the big hit for Blackwings, getting Dark Arm Dragon. You summon Dark Arm Dragon, you cannot use turn player priority to remove a monster to pop a card. It's from March 19th, remember. So basically that means that summon Dark Arm Dragon when you don't think they've got anything, or when they don't have a back row, and Dark Arm Dragon becomes a massive monster killer. That's it. So basically from that you've got maybe sort of halfway Gale has been touched, but Dark Arm Dragon's been hit. Whereas X-Sabers, Boggart Knight, that they run 3 of, they can't use priority to use Boggart Knight's effect to special summon another X-Saber from their hand, which is excellent. You just like trap hole the Boggart Knight or something. And Foul Troll, they can't use Foul Troll's effect to call priority and special summon an X-Saber from the graveyard. So if you bottomless Foul Troll, gone. They can't keep special summoning. So that's excellent. So X-Sabers have been hit in ways they didn't see coming, so I like that. So Blackwing plays then are actually better than I originally thought they would be from the ban list. I wrote up a deck list last night and was like, actually this could work. Double Spirit Reaper, and you still got those 2 and 2, and you got that at 1, and you got basically monsters that don't really use ignition effects anyway, and Blizzard the Far North still works because it's a trigger effect. So when you consider the fact that we can still run 2 Icarus attacks, and basically we've now been given room by Konami to run 2 Delta Crow anti-reverses, we've got a Heavy Storm that no one else has. We'll just clear the back row and swarm for game. That's all my deck is going to do. Kalute going to 1 sucks, but then, what can you do about it? I'm going to be running double Spirit Reaper instead, so should hopefully balance out quite nicely. But yeah, there we go. That's just, a rant on it. Have a comment war below on what you think this is going to do with the game. I think it's a good decision for the game, although I don't like the fact that Konami are changing game mechanics, set rules for the game, and they're changing them. Even though it's good for the game, I don't like that they're changing the game, if you get what I mean. So, there we go. Have fun, everyone.